Beloved, I need you to slow down for a moment and stay right here, because what you are stepping into right now was not scheduled for someday. It was not postponed for a future version of you. It was not written for a time when things felt easier or more convenient. It was crafted for this exact breath you are breathing, this precise intersection of exhaustion and hope, this quiet place where you wondered if anyone truly saw you. And I want you to hear this not as noise, not as motivation, but as a personal interruption from heaven itself. Because this message is arriving like a sealed letter placed gently into your hands by God, and the first truth it carries is one you may have needed longer than you realize. Nothing you have done in faith, nothing you have carried in integrity, nothing you have endured with a soft heart has ever gone unnoticed. Not one moment, not one sacrifice, not one tear that fell when no one else was in the room. Because while the world measures worth by volume and visibility, God measures by truth and intention. And He has been watching every single time you chose patience when anger was screaming inside you, every time you resisted bitterness when revenge would have felt justified, every time you swallowed your pain so someone else could feel safe, every time you showed up when you felt empty, every time you kept loving even when you felt unseen, and even when people assumed you were fine because you didn't complain, even when they overlooked you because you didn't perform your suffering out loud. God never looked away, never lost track of you, never confused your silence for strengthlessness, because He is close to the brokenhearted, He is near to the crushed in spirit, and the reason you are still standing right now is not because you were strong on your own. It is because you were held, remembered, sustained, and carried through every unseen moment, and the world may applaud confidence when it looks clean and curated. It may reward strength when it appears impressive and effortless. But God does not honor appearances. He honors honesty, and He saw the nights you wrestled with doubt and still got up the next morning. He saw the days you didn't feel spiritual or powerful or inspired yet chose truth over pretending. He saw the moments you stayed quiet not because you were weak, but because peace mattered more to you than being right. And that restraint, that self-control, that humility was not loss. It was real power. It was the kind of strength that quietly laid a foundation beneath your life while no one was clapping. And maybe no one ever affirmed you when you needed it most. Maybe as a child your effort went unnoticed. Maybe as an adult your growth went uncelebrated. Maybe you broke cycles, healed wounds, chose healthier paths, and still felt invisible. Maybe you poured out your last ounce of energy, and all you received back was silence. But hear this clearly now. Silence on earth has never meant silence in heaven, because God was counting it all. Every restrained reaction, every private decision, every choice made when no one was watching. And He wants you to understand this without confusion or hesitation. What you carried mattered. What you endured mattered. What you chose when you could have chosen differently mattered deeply. And the delays you questioned were not rejection. The pruning you resented was not punishment. It was preparation, because God was shaping you for something your current eyes could not yet recognize. And preparation always leads to unveiling. And that unveiling is beginning now. Because for a long time people looked at your life and assumed you had been forgotten. They mistook hidden seasons for abandonment. They assumed the absence of applause meant the absence of purpose. But God is about to overturn that assumption, because what comes next does not read like failure. It reads like favor. The same moments that felt like setbacks are about to reveal themselves as setups. The same paths that seemed blocked will begin to open. Not because you forced them open, not because you demanded recognition, but because you became ready. And let this settle deep inside you. You are not stepping into this next chapter because you finally performed well enough. You are stepping into it because you stayed true. You did not abandon your soul to blend in with people who chose comfort over calling. You did not trade your peace for approval. You did not dim your light to keep relationships that could not handle your growth. And even when you doubted yourself, God never doubted you. He knew exactly what He placed inside you. Vision that sees deeper, a heart that feels further, a spirit that rises when others collapse. And that is what you were cultivating in the quiet. And now that quiet strength is about to echo louder than every trial you've survived. Because what is coming will not only show up as blessings, it will be felt the moment you walk into a room. There will be a weight to your presence, a gravity people cannot explain, because it comes from walking through storms and refusing to become bitter, hardened, or cynical. And the beauty of this season is that you no longer have to explain yourself. You don't have to lay out your scars. You don't owe anyone the full story of how you survived, because God saw it all and that is enough. This season is no longer about survival. It is about recognition. Not shallow attention that fades when the spotlight shifts, but recognition from heaven itself, the kind that quietly declares this one endured. This one chose integrity in secret. This one will be honored openly. And you are standing now at the edge of a season that looks nothing like the one before it. A season where peace doesn't have to be fought for every day but begins to flow. Where doors don't hesitate or open halfway but open fully. Where love doesn't have to be begged for or proven worthy of, but arrives freely because your value has already been declared. And if ease feels unfamiliar, that's okay, because joy can feel strange after years of endurance. And new doesn't mean wrong, it means right on time, because this shift isn't happening just because time passed. It's happening because alignment finally met identity. Because you stopped shrinking to keep others comfortable. Because you decided your soul was worth protecting even if it meant walking alone. And heaven is responding to that decision now. Because what you are entering is no longer hidden work. It is the season where what was cultivated in silence begins to speak without words. And there is a difference between someone who shines because they were placed in the spotlight and someone who shines because their light survived the shadows. And you are the second, which is why your presence will feel undeniable. People may not understand it, but they will feel it. The steadiness, the clarity, the strength that wasn't borrowed from applause. Because that kind of atmosphere cannot be manufactured. It can only be forged. And you were forged in waiting. And that is why God is turning your story now. Because some people believed that if they ignored you long enough, the vision inside you would fade. They assumed silence would weaken you. That neglect would shrink what God placed within you. But what they never understood is that nothing planted by God can be suffocated by being overlooked. What God begins, no human dismissal can cancel. And now the very ones who misjudged you are about to witness what was forming all along. Not because you need their approval, not because you crave validation or revenge, but because God is making your life undeniable. And the spaces that rejected you will soon be confronted with the evidence of why you were set apart. The voices that doubted your future will have to face the reality of it. And this is not pettiness, it is divine order. Because when God invests in someone, He never leaves the harvest hidden forever. And understand this, what is arriving now is not random, it is response. It is an answer to seeds you planted when you thought nothing was growing. Every time you chose faith over fear, every refusal to settle for less than truth, every private act of obedience, those were seeds. And God does not forget seed. And this is not luck. It is justice. Justice for the nights you endured without answers. Justice for sacrifices no one applauded. Justice for pain you carried without letting it poison your heart. And when divine justice arrives, it announces itself. But the shift is not only external, it is internal. Because you have changed, and everything around you is now adjusting to who you've become. You are not entering another season of survival. You are entering a season of flourishing. A season where blessing does not drain you but sustains you. Where favor does not disappear when opinions change, because it was never built on opinion, it was built on God's remembrance of you. So when recognition comes, Don't flinch. Don't question if you deserve it. Don't shrink back out of old habits of unworthiness. Stand in it. Because this is what you built in silence. This is what you carried when quitting would have been easier. And now, right here in this moment, I speak peace over your mind, clarity over your vision, courage over your next steps. I declare that fear loses its grip, doubt loses its voice, and confusion gives way to confidence. I pray that you recognize the season you are in, that you receive what God is releasing without resistance, that you walk forward without apology, that you trust what is unfolding even when it feels unfamiliar, and that you know without question that you are not reaching for God from a distance. You are standing in His presence right now, fully seen, fully known, deeply held, and divinely carried into everything that was prepared for you long before you ever asked for it. Beloved, as this moment continues to unfold, I need you to understand that what is happening now is not a pause between messages, but a deepening of the same divine conversation, because heaven does not speak in fragments. It speaks in waves. And this next wave is pressing closer to your inner life, to the places you don't talk about, the places you learned to lock away so you could keep functioning. Because God is not only restoring what was visible, He is healing what was hidden. And this is where many people get uncomfortable, because blessing feels exciting but transformation feels exposing. Yet God never exposes to shame, He reveals to heal. And what He is touching now is the way you see yourself when no one else is watching, the internal narrative you built during the long nights, the quiet assumptions you made about your worth based on how often you were overlooked. Because for a long time you carried strength like armor. You learned how to survive without asking, how to endure without leaning, how to smile while holding weight that should have been shared, and that survival skill kept you alive. But it was never meant to be permanent, because armor that protects you in war will suffocate you in peace. And God is gently removing what you no longer need, not to make you vulnerable to harm, but to make you available for intimacy, for rest, for joy that does not require effort to maintain. And you may notice resistance rising inside you, a voice that says, "Be careful, don't trust ease, don't relax yet." Because your nervous system learned to stay alert, your heart learned to brace for disappointment. But hear this clearly. That posture served you then. It does not serve you now, because this season is not about bracing, it is about breathing. It is not about holding on. It is about opening up. And God is retraining your spirit to recognize safety again, to recognize goodness without suspicion, to receive without guilt, because you were never meant to earn everything through exhaustion. And the reason this feels strange is because you are stepping out of an identity built around endurance and into one rooted in alignment. And alignment always feels quieter than struggle. It doesn't shout. It settles, and that can feel unfamiliar when chaos was your normal. But this is where maturity shows itself, not in how much you can carry, but in how much you can release. And God is inviting you to let go of the belief that your value is proven by how much you suffer, because suffering was a season, not a sentence. And the weight you are laying down now is not weakness, it is wisdom. Because you are learning the difference between perseverance and punishment, between sacrifice and self-neglect. And as this internal shift takes place, you may notice something else changing, the way people respond to you. Not because you are trying harder, but because you are no longer leaking desperation, no longer seeking permission to exist, no longer apologizing for your presence. And that quiet confidence will unsettle some people, especially those who benefited from your self-doubt, those who were comfortable when you stayed small, when you overgave, when you accepted less than you deserved. But do not mistake their discomfort for a sign that you are wrong. It is confirmation that you are no longer accessible to old patterns, and God is not asking you to confront anyone. He is asking you to stay grounded, because your peace is not fragile anymore. It is rooted, and rooted things are not shaken by surface reactions, and this is where your authority begins to show itself. Not in volume, not in dominance, but in steadiness. Because authority that comes from God does not need to announce itself. It is recognized, and you will begin to notice opportunities aligning without force, conversations opening without manipulation, doors responding to your presence instead of your pushing. Because favor flows where integrity lives, and you have lived it privately for longer than anyone knows, and now heaven is making it public in ways you did not orchestrate. And I need you to hear this part with clarity. You are not late. You are not behind. You did not miss your moment. Your timeline was protected. Because if what is coming had arrived earlier, it would have crushed you. You would have had access without stability, influence without grounding, visibility without identity. And God will never promote what He has not first prepared. So every delay was mercy. Every closed door was direction. Every season of isolation was insulation, protecting what was forming inside you. And now that formation has reached maturity, which is why things are accelerating, because readiness shortens distance, and you may feel a pull toward things you once felt unqualified for, drawn to spaces that used to intimidate you, sensing a responsibility you didn't ask for but recognize as familiar. And that is not arrogance. It is remembrance, because something inside you recognizes the assignment, even if your mind is still catching up. And God is saying, trust the pull, trust the alignment, trust the peace that comes with it. Because fear always demands proof, but faith recognizes truth by resonance. And what resonates now is not survival, it is purpose. And as you step forward, there will be moments when old voices try to rise, reminding you of who you used to be, what you lacked, where you struggled. But those voices no longer have authority, because they are speaking to a version of you that no longer exists, and you do not need to fight them. You simply need to outgrow them, because growth silences what argument never could. And hear this, you are not becoming someone else. You are becoming more yourself. The self God saw from the beginning. Before trauma taught you to shrink, before disappointment taught you to guard, before responsibility taught you to disappear behind strength. And this return to self is holy. It is restoration. It is redemption unfolding in real time. And now I speak this over you as a sealing. May your mind rest without guilt. May your heart receive without fear. May your steps align without striving. May your voice carry truth without force. May your presence bring peace without explanation. And may you trust that the same God who carried you through what almost broke you is now guiding you into what will finally sustain you. Because this is not the end of the message. This is the continuation of a calling that has been active all along. And you are finally ready to walk in it, without shrinking, without hiding, and without doubting that you belong exactly where God is leading you next. Beloved, as this final movement of the message unfolds, I want you to recognize that nothing you have felt stirring inside you up to this point has been accidental, because God does not awaken hunger without intending to satisfy it, and He does not stir awareness without preparing action. And what you are sensing now is not just encouragement, it is commissioning, because there comes a moment when comfort is no longer the gift and clarity becomes the responsibility. And you are standing at that moment now, where God is no longer only reminding you of what you survived, but revealing why you survived it. Because the pain you walked through was never meant to define you. It was meant to refine you. And the wisdom you carry now was paid for with experience, not theory. And that is why your voice carries weight, even when you are not speaking. Because people can feel when someone has been processed by God, when someone has been emptied of ego and filled with truth, when someone has been stripped of illusion and anchored in identity. And this is why the next season of your life will not be loud in the way you expect, but powerful in the way that changes atmospheres. Because influence does not always announce itself. Sometimes it enters quietly and reshapes everything simply by being present. And you are being positioned now not to chase platforms but to become one. Not to seek permission but to walk in assignment. Not to convince but to embody. Because embodiment is what separates information from transformation. And you are no longer just someone who believes in God. You are becoming someone who reflects Him through the way you move, the way you decide, the way you love without desperation, the way you say no without guilt, the way you stand firm without aggression. And that is maturity. And maturity is what heaven trusts with impact. Because God is not just interested in what you can receive, He is interested in what you can steward. And stewardship requires stability, and stability has been formed in you through seasons where nothing moved, yet everything mattered. And now the responsibility increases, not as pressure, but as privilege, because you are being invited to live from a place of intention instead of reaction, from discernment instead of impulse, from alignment instead of approval. And you may notice that your tolerance for chaos is decreasing, that certain conversations feel draining, that certain environments feel misaligned. And that is not arrogance, it is discernment, sharpening. Because when God prepares someone for impact, He also refines their appetite. He changes what they can consume, who they can entertain, what they can carry without compromise. And you are learning now that not everything deserves access to you. Not every demand deserves a response. Not every invitation is assignment. And this clarity will protect you more than effort ever could, because exhaustion comes from trying to be everything to everyone, but peace comes from being obedient to the one thing you were called to be. And God is simplifying your focus now, not shrinking your world, but strengthening your direction. Because direction determines momentum, and momentum is what carries vision forward when emotion fluctuates. And you will have days where you don't feel inspired. Days where the old fatigue whispers, days where progress feels slower than you expected. But hear this, consistency will carry you where intensity never could, and God is not asking you to impress. He is asking you to trust Him, to take the next step even when the full picture is still forming, because faith is not about seeing everything clearly. It is about moving clearly with what you see, and what you see now is enough. And as you move forward, do not be surprised when old connections fall away, when certain relationships fade without explanation, when familiar patterns lose their grip, because not everything can come with you where you are going. Not because it was evil, but because it was seasonal. And seasons end when their purpose is fulfilled. And releasing them is not betrayal, it is obedience. And God will replace what leaves with what fits. Not always immediately, but intentionally, because He is more concerned with alignment than speed. And when the replacement comes, it will feel different, calmer, steadier, mutual, nourishing. And you will realize how much energy you spent surviving what you were never meant to sustain long term. And this realization may bring grief, but even that grief is holy, because it honors how far you've come. And do not rush past it, because healing is not denial, it is integration, and God is integrating your past into your purpose so nothing is wasted. Not the heartbreak, not the disappointment, not the confusion, not the waiting, because everything you endured is now being redeemed into wisdom, empathy, discernment, and authority. And authority is what heaven releases now, not authority over people, but authority over fear, over distraction, over self-sabotage, over the lies that once limited you. And with that authority comes a new responsibility: to choose courage when retreat feels safer, to choose truth when silence feels easier, to choose obedience when comfort tries to negotiate, because your life is becoming a signal, and signals must remain clear to be effective. And this is why God is inviting you into deeper intimacy now. Not more activity, not more striving, but more listening. because direction flows from relationship, and relationship deepens when you stop performing and start abiding. And you will find that the more you rest in God, the clearer your decisions become, the lighter your spirit feels, the stronger your boundaries grow, and the more confident your steps become. Not because you have all the answers, but because you trust the one who does. And now, as this message reaches its sealing moment, I want you to receive this prayer not as words but as activation. May your heart be anchored in truth. May your mind be renewed with clarity. May your body release stored tension from years of endurance. May your spirit recognize safety and goodness. May your path be illuminated step by step. May your courage rise without force. May your discernment sharpen without suspicion. May your influence expand without ego. May your blessings arrive without anxiety. May your obedience remain joyful. May your peace remain guarded. And may you never again doubt that you are seen, chosen, prepared, and positioned for such a time as this, because the God who carried you through the hidden years is now walking you into visible purpose. And He will not abandon you halfway. He will not withdraw His hand. He will not change His mind, because what He has begun in you will be completed, and you are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not late. You are right on time, standing exactly where heaven intended you to stand, ready to live not as someone trying to survive life, but as someone finally authorized to live it fully, freely, and faithfully, in alignment with everything God has been forming inside you all along.